They thought the pain would finish you. They thought if they took enough from you, if they dismissed you enough times, betrayed you quietly enough, left you alone in your worst moments, you would collapse. They thought you were the kind of person who breaks. They were wrong. Because suffering did something to you that they never anticipated. It didn't destroy you. It educated you. It carved something out of you that no comfort, no easy life, no applause could have ever built. And what was left standing after all of that pain was not the person they remembered. It was something far more composed, far more dangerous, far more free. This is not a story about revenge. This is not about hatred. This is about what happens to a human being when they are pushed past every limit they thought they had, and they survive. And not just survive, but become. Listen closely. You trusted people you shouldn't have trusted. Not because you were foolish, but because you were human. You extended your loyalty to people who treated it like a weakness. You gave your energy to people who drained it without ever asking permission. You opened yourself honestly to people who looked at your vulnerability and decided to use it against you. And you didn't see it coming. Because you weren't built that way. You believed in people. You showed up. You stayed. Even when part of you sensed something wasn't right, you stayed. And then it happened. The betrayal. The rejection. The moment someone you trusted revealed exactly who they were. It wasn't loud. It rarely is. Betrayal is quiet. It slides in through the back door of your life, wearing the face of someone familiar. And by the time you realize what happened, the damage is already done. They minimized you. In rooms full of people, in conversations where your name came up, they reduced you to something small when you weren't there to defend yourself. They took your kindness and narrated it as weakness. They took your silence and called it ignorance. They took your absence and filled it with their version of you. A version that served their need to feel above you. And you found out. Not all at once, piece by piece. The way you always find out about these things. And the pain of that is not something words do justice to. Because it wasn't just the betrayal itself, it was the realization. The slow, sickening awareness that someone you invested in genuinely did not see you the way you saw them. That the relationship you were building in your mind was not the relationship they were participating in. That you were more loyal to them than they ever intended to be to you. That is a specific kind of pain. It doesn't just hurt. It disorients you, and after something like that, most people fall apart. Not dramatically. Quietly, they start to doubt themselves. They replay conversations, looking for the moment they should have seen it. They become smaller, more guarded, more apologetic for simply existing. They carry that wound silently and let it quietly reshape everything they do. They stop trusting people, but not in a way that protects them, in a way that isolates them. They pull back from life. They stop trying. They become permanent residents of bitterness, spending their energy on resentment rather than rebuilding. They become obsessed with being seen as the victim. Because in a strange way, victimhood offers comfort. It explains everything. It removes responsibility. It gives pain a permanent address. And they stay there. For years, sometimes forever. But that is not what happened to you. Because somewhere in the middle of that darkness, something shifted. It wasn't inspiration. It wasn't one powerful moment of clarity. It was slower than that. It was quieter. It was more like a decision made at 3 in the morning when you were exhausted and empty and finally deeply tired of being tired. You stopped waiting for an apology that was never coming. You stopped looking for acknowledgement from people who would never acknowledge you. You stopped replaying the betrayal, searching for a different ending. You stopped needing the story to be fair. Because life, you finally understood, does not operate on fairness. It operates on what you do with what you're given. And what you were given was pain. So, you got to work. Not because someone inspired you, not because you read something that changed your life in 5 minutes, but because pain itself, when you stop running from it, becomes a teacher unlike any other. It strips away everything unnecessary, every illusion, every dependency, every false version of yourself you were performing for other people's comfort. Pain asked you a question, quietly, persistently, the same question over and over. Who are you without their approval? And you had to sit with that. Really sit with it. Because everything you thought you needed from other people, their validation, their belief in you, their acknowledgement, their loyalty, had been taken away. And you were still here, diminished, but here, and slowly, painfully, you began to build something. Not because the world became easier, but because you became harder, more disciplined, more precise, more self-directed. You started waking up earlier, not because someone told you to, but because you understood, finally, that the hours before the world wakes up belong entirely to you. No distractions, no noise, no one to perform for. Just you and the work. You started keeping your word to yourself. Every small commitment you made, you honored, not because it felt powerful in the moment, but because you understood that self-trust is built or destroyed one small decision at a time, and you had spent long enough not trusting yourself. Following other people's direction, seeking permission to pursue your own life, that ended. You stopped explaining yourself. This is something people underestimate: the power of silence. The power of simply removing yourself from conversations where you are being misrepresented, misunderstood, or minimized. The instinct when someone gets you wrong is to correct them, to explain, to justify, to convince. But you learn something. You cannot convince someone who has already decided what they think of you. And more importantly, you do not need to. Their opinion of you is not a verdict you are obligated to appeal. So, you went quiet. Not the quiet of someone who has nothing to say. The quiet of someone who has decided that their energy is too valuable to spend on audiences that don't deserve the performance. And that silence was misread. Of course it was. They interpreted it as defeat, as shame, as you having nothing left. Let them. Because what was actually happening in that silence was construction. You were building something, brick by brick, in private, with no applause, with no audience, with no one watching. Your discipline became consistent. Your focus became sharp. Your identity stopped depending on external confirmation. You stopped measuring your worth through the eyes of people who never saw you clearly. And in that process, you changed. Not into someone cold, not into someone without feeling. The emotion didn't disappear. It compressed, it densified, it became fuel rather than flood. The rage that could have consumed you became focus. The grief that could have paralyzed you became motivation. The loneliness that could have broken you became independence. You became someone who no longer needed to be the loudest person in the room. Because you understood that the loudest person in the room is almost never the most powerful one. Power doesn't announce itself. Power is demonstrated, consistently, calmly, over time. Here is a truth that most people are never told. Dangerous people are not created through privilege. They are not created through comfort or applause or easy roads. The most difficult people to manipulate, to control, to diminish are almost always people who have been through something. People who have already lost something they thought they couldn't survive losing, and survived anyway. Because once you know you can survive your own worst fear, very little has power over you anymore. This is what they built when they betrayed you. This is what they created when they rejected you. This is what their disrespect constructed, quietly, without their awareness. Someone who cannot be managed through approval, because they no longer require approval. Someone who cannot be threatened through abandonment, because they have already survived abandonment. Someone who cannot be diminished through criticism, because they have already looked at themselves honestly and done the work of becoming better without waiting to be asked. They built someone impossible to control. They didn't break you. They built a monster. But understand what that word means. because it is not what they would assume. The monster is not rage. The monster is not instability. The monster is not someone who lashes out, who destroys, who lets bitterness run its mouth at every opportunity. That would be too easy to dismiss. The monster is composure. Every single day is a vote. Who are you building? Because the version of you that suffering is making possible is not the version that needed the approval they withheld. It is not the version that collapsed when they walked away. It is not the version that explained itself endlessly to people who had no genuine interest in understanding. The version being built now is self-directed, grounded, clear, unmoved by external noise, deeply committed to their own growth without requiring anyone's permission to pursue it. That version is not finished yet, but every day you choose discipline over comfort, that version becomes more real. Every morning you honor the commitment you made to yourself, that version becomes more stable. Every time you choose your own direction over the desire for their acknowledgement, that version becomes more certain. Keep building. There will come a day. Not one you announce, not one you plan, just an ordinary moment, unremarkable from the outside, where your path and theirs cross again. And they will see you, not the version they dismissed, not the version they underestimated, not the version they thought they understood when they decided you were small enough to overlook, the version you became after they left. They will recognize it immediately, not with words, in that specific quiet way that people recognize something they misjudged, something they let go of before they understood its value, something they defined before they saw its finished form. And you won't need to say anything. You won't need to reference the pain. You won't need to remind them of what they did. You won't need acknowledgement, vindication, or apology, because you will have already had something far more valuable than all of those things combined. You will have become someone who no longer needs it. That is the most complete form of freedom that exists. Not being celebrated by the people who doubted you. Not being apologized to by the people who hurt you, but genuinely, deeply, in a way that goes all the way down. Not needing either, just being. Fully, calmly, without apology, without performance, without anyone's permission. They thought the pain would destroy you. They thought rejection would make you smaller. They thought betrayal was the end of your story. But suffering does not end stories, it reveals them. And what your pain has been quietly revealing through every difficult night, through every moment of doubt, through every morning you chose to get up and continue anyway, is this. You were never as fragile as they believed. You were never as limited as they decided. You were never going to stay broken. Because broken was never your destination. It was just your beginning. They didn't destroy you. They built a monster. And now, it's time to let that monster work. Comment below. Pain created me.